Hello, yeah, this is the first episode of Board Game Bollocks, and this is where I'll talk bollocks about board games for a couple of minutes. And yeah, today we're going to be having a little chat about what happened at the UK Games Expo last week. Was it the week before last? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm aware this happened a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, but I wanted to take some time to try and sort of formulate an opinion based on the facts or what I've read about what I claim to be the facts, right? Basically what happened was some bloke got ejected from the UK Games Expo because he ran an RPG. You have to excuse me, my washing machine's going downstairs, but he ran an RPG with some sort of adult themes of how do we put it, gang rape and all that sort of stuff. And oh yeah, by the way, this isn't adult vlog, so just be aware of that up there, yeah. And yeah, so some geezer got ejected from the UK Games Expo for running an adult themed or a controversially themed RPG about gang rape or something. And yeah, you know, whilst I understand that RPGs are sort of used by certain people for, you know, taboo subjects, because like D&D, if D&D was a taboo thing back in the early 80s, right? You know, I don't know if I started playing D&D back in about 1982, and back then there was this thing called a satanic panic, where certain groups or certain pressure groups tried to get D&D banned because they said that it was bad for kids, or it was evil or demonic or whatever, and they sort of succeeded in a way. I mean, if you look at the Monster Manual 1, you'll see that there were certain things in there that didn't appear in the later editions of D&D, like Asmodeus or Asmodeus and Succubus, and all those sort of demons and devils were removed from the later editions. So they sort of won, in a way, they sort of managed to dilute the controversy surrounding D&D through their pressures. And in a sense, that was the first step towards Dungeons and Dragons losing its mass appeal in the 90s, you know, because it stopped being about the core reason for people playing D&D was that it told stories about ordinary people like you and me. You know, it wasn't this sort of Tolkien-esque high fantasy where we look towards the establishment to solve all our problems. It was about normal, ordinary people with nothing trying to get something and trying to make stories around ordinary people. And that was Gary Gygax's genius for me, is that he took low fantasy stories and about normal, ordinary people trying to take on the establishment, trying to take on the blokes in the Tolkien thing, and he turned the sort of the fantasy genre on its head and appealed to normal people, right? And that sort of thing, people thought that was dangerous, and they started blaming D&D for social problems. And I think they made a massive mistake, because they eventually, D&D sort of yielded to that pressure, and it was diluted and sterilised to the point where it ceased to be relevant in the 90s, and TSR eventually folded. And if it hadn't been for D&D, you wouldn't have these role-playing games today. So there's a place for these sort of controversial themes in role-playing games, and I understand it completely. I understand that there's going to be people that will use role-playing games to explore these sort of dark taboo subjects, because that's what D&D was. You know, there's nothing nice about, or nothing really acceptable in the 70s about going out, you know, killing people with swords, cutting them open, nicking all their treasure. I mean, it was, you know, at its core, D&D is a dark game, right? So I can understand that, I really do. And, you know, I get why certain people want to play D&D and explore those sort of themes, right? Yeah, I get that. But, and here's the but, do not take that stuff and force it down people's throats in a family-oriented, family-friendly, public sphere, right? Don't do it, you stupid twat. I mean, who thinks about taking gang rape into a public space, into an expo, without telling anybody? I mean, even if you'd gone to the organiser and said, look, I want to run this RPG that's about, that it opens up with a gang rape scene, is that okay? They turn around and tell you to get lost, right? And, you know, if I found out that my kids were playing a game with you, then I'd come around and I'd knock your head off, mate. But, you know, so these sort of people, I don't know if it's a deliberate thing or provocative or what, but I can understand why you want to use these role-playing games to explore these subjects, but just don't subject other people to it without their say-so, right? So, I can understand the media furore, and in a sense, it's disappointing, really, because board games and role-playing games in general is a medium that brings people together. I play board games with people that I otherwise would never see, right? So it's disappointing that these sort of games are on the media, and this sort of disease of divisiveness is sort of infiltrating board games. Board games and role-playing games, tabletop gaming is one of the last bastions in the fight against divisiveness, right? Because it brings people together. It brings people together in a space where they can have fun, right? And let's keep tabletop games fun, and let's keep people playing together. See you later.